you had this idea of trading full time right off the bat and living off your trading, but then you smiled and you're like, but I don't recommend that. Do you want to dive a little deeper into that real quick and just explain what you mean by, what changed your mind from that experience? Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Today, I have a very special guest. He was recommended to me by Nate Michaud, and he's been on the show several times, as you guys know, from Investors Underground. But I also knew of this guy's name a long time ago. A long time ago, he came up in my radar when I first started trading, and then I lost sight of him. And not because I don't think he disappeared or anything, just maybe he took a break from social media. But today, I have Mason Riley, who's going to be joining us and sharing his story. And maybe you can help fill in some of those blanks for us. Mason, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Alex. I'm excited, man.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited too. Like I said at the beginning, it's like I saw you a long time ago, and then it kind of went away for a while. Could you just help me understand what happened in that time period?
Yeah, so basically, I was a part of like one tight-knit community, I guess, in the trading world. And I found some success in there, and I don't know, a few things went wrong in my opinion, I guess. And then a few other things just kind of took place in my life. I lost my dad, just a couple other things. So, we won't get too much into that, but I went out and just started traveling the world a little bit. I was still trading pretty consistently, but I stepped away from the markets for a little while, and then I came back. Made a few mistakes, and then kind of had to, work on continuing to expand my skills. And it was quite the journey, man. But yeah, I've always been here. I've never given up on it. I guess life got in the way a little bit from me being so public, I suppose.
That makes sense. So rather than you never were gone, you just weren't public as much in the past as you were. And that makes sense. And we won't dive into any of what you brought up, but I'm so sorry for what you experienced, and I can't even imagine.
Okay. It's life. It's life.
That hurts me deep down. So I sorry, but what I will want to know is, let's go back now. Let's go back for people who have no clue who you are. They're like, Alex, who the hell is Mason? Right? So Mason, could you tell us what got you into trading to begin with? Like, where does your story start?
Okay, so I'll try to condense all of this as much as possible. I feel like since high school, I took an interest in the stock market, and I'm 23 right now. Okay, so people can kind of understand the time frame. So I'm 23 right now. 17, first started taking a little interest in the stock market. When I got to college, I bought my first stock, which was NVIDIA, and that was before NVIDIA became NVIDIA that we know it to be today. And so I made some money there, and then dabbled in options, this, that, and the other. And yeah, I pretty much lost like everything that I originally made. I wouldn't even consider myself a trader. Like, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And then I remember coming across Tim Sykes and his advertisements, and I was interested in what he had to say. And so I joined his Millionaire Challenge and just kind of dedicated my time to learning the stock market. And the predictable patterns that we can profit off of as traders. And a few years later, I feel like I would never say I've mastered this stuff, but I feel like I've figured the game out a little bit, and I've found some success with it.
What would you say in terms of are you more of do you think trading is as simple as it's mainly just like big picture patterns, and then, or is it mainly, how would you describe trading as for you? Just from a point of view, like, would you describe it as easy, hard? Can you explain that?
Easy. Oh man, no. This is not easy. Yeah. So I would say I'm more of a big picture guy. So Tim Sykes, and I feel like a lot of people in this industry hate on Tim Sykes, and he is the foundation for what I know about trading and in the trading world. So, but as I've matured as a trader, I've come across, just other people who've helped me expand my skill set. But anyway, I bring up Tim Sykes because he introduced me to this thing he calls the penny stocking framework. And it's kind of 7 steps to the price action of a particular stock, before its ultimate run up, its parabolic move, and then its collapse and everything on the backside of the trade. And that has helped me tremendously for how I approach the markets. And so I don't really focus on shorting. I focus on going long. So my focus is on capturing the gains on the way up of that ultimate parabolic move and locking into strength along the way before it, inevitably collapses. So,
I love that you gave some shout out to Tim Sykes, because he does get very, there's people who love him and people who don't. And I could be one of those people who some people think I don't cheer for Sykes. And at the end of the day, I have to admit too, and people do know this, I agree with you that my foundation came from Sykes at the end of the day. Like, it came from Sykes. That's who I found first. That's who I learned from first. And then from there, I expanded. And you said something about the penny stocking framework, which I think is really a very useful framework. And I'm very curious, like, for a long bias trader who's someone who tries to catch the first part of the move, what's your advice for people because for me, I don't even know how to even do that. I'm a short bias mainly, but I long bias now on big caps. But for the small caps, I'm just very curious on what you mean by catching the first upswing of that move. What's some advice for people to look out for to start doing that?
And so essentially, you're going to have a stock. It's going to spike. Sometimes I'll catch that very first day, where it runs 100, 200% or whatever. Maybe there's some type of news catalyst. I don't know. But where my success comes from is actually the secondary move. So let's say this stock spikes, okay? And then it consolidates maybe for a few days, a few weeks. I'm always keeping that stuff. And here's the most important part of it, in my opinion, is how much volume did it trade on that original day? In this market, I like to see hundreds of millions of shares traded on that particular day. In the past, when things are a little bit more normal, it didn't have to be hundreds of millions of shares. But these days, that's what matters. So you have this initial run up, hundreds of millions of shares, consolidates for a few days, maybe a couple weeks, I don't know. And it's never coming off my radar. And then I'll set my price alerts. I keep it on watch. And then once it starts to go take out that former resistance level, it generally has a second leg up, a follow through move to the upside. And that's what I like to capture.
I love that. And that is such a beautiful setup. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's like something I don't do, but it's just very cool. And how you explain it was very simple. So I appreciate you sharing that. And just curious for people who don't know, and that's both for you, listed and unlisted and OTCs, correct? Or is that incorrect?
Yes, that is listed and OTCs.
Cool.
On OTCs, though, I would say the patterns and price action are much smoother. Support and resistance is pretty consistent. On listed stocks, it's definitely choppier, but that's why that's why I choose to, still take the trade, but accept that there's going to be choppiness and just think about key levels and the bigger picture idea after I enter into my trade.
Cool, man. Do you recommend, because you said OTCs seem a little smoother, are they easier for people? Like, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I would definitely say OTCs are easier. But you have to know what you're doing. And I have an edge there because, a lot of people don't realize that OTC executions aren't instantaneous. They don't have the skill set to be able to accurately read level 2 and figure out turns on the tape and everything. And but yeah, if you take the time to kind of learn these little intricacies of the OTC market that aren't there on the listed market, they become much easier, and you have a huge competitive advantage over the other people in the market. So.
I agree with you there. OTCs, I don't trade those anymore, but when I first started, I know that level 2 is much slower and or at least easier to see for those pivot moments. And I think our biggest challenge for most people, at least for me when I first started, was the slippage. If you weren't prepared for OTCs, like if you weren't prepared for that, you could get some major slippage there. So I appreciate you saying that. And I do think they are much smoother. I agree with you there. How do you find your OTCs, by the way? Like, it is because like most people understand listed stocks. Like, how do you find them? Like, are you using special scanners for yourself, or what do you do?
So yeah, I mean, I formerly used stocks to trade for my scans, but now I switched over to scans by equity feed, I believe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just have these scans that I set up a long time ago when I first started trading, and it's pretty simple. I mean, it just captures, it's looking for, listed and OTC stocks that are up on the day with significant volume. And I just go through each day as the day goes along. I evaluate each stock and I see what's of interest to me. And if I like it, maybe I'll take a trade there. But if I'm like, this is very interesting, but it's not quite time yet for a trade here, I'll add it onto my secondary watch list and then I'll revisit it maybe in a few days or a few weeks.
So we're going to take a step back for a moment because I'm very curious now. That time period from 17 to now you're 23, how long did it take you personally to really like things for you to click after you joined that challenge and you started learning the framework? Like, when did things click for you, and what did that mean for you too at that moment? Like, could you explain that?
Yeah, so I actually didn't even start learning how to trade, like actually learning how to trade until um, the summer of 2017. So I believe I was 20 years old. And whenever I went from basically knowing absolutely nothing about trading in May of 2017, and I started to find consistent profitability by August of 2018. So it took me a little bit over a year to start finding that consistent profitability. And I guess your question was like, what did
What
I
was it?
feel like?
Yeah. What was it that made that switch for you? Like, was there a certain thought process that helped you find that consistency, or was there a certain like mindset, or was there a certain lesson?
Yeah, so I've actually done one other interview before in the past, and they asked me the same question. I'm going to answer it the exact same way. So, when you get into the trading world, I mean, we know it's the matrix. It's just a very complex thing that's taking place here. There's a lot of noise. There's just so much going on that it's easy to get distracted. And I go back to Tim Sykes here for a moment because that's who I learned from for the beginning of my journey. And I learned a lot of my key foundational principles from him. And he simplified it in such a way that it made this whole game seem very easy. And, once I went out into the market myself, I guess I got sidetracked. I lost that simplistic outlook on the market. And because, there's just so much going on. And I guess once I started finding the consistent success, the ultimate catalyst that led to that was coming back to that simplistic outlook on the market and keeping things as simple as possible. That's kind of the theme of my trading is really just do less and keep it simple, stupid. Like that's literally what it is right there.
Yeah. Do you focus mainly on that? That just leads to the idea of, are you a fundamentals guy at all, or mainly technicals?
Mainly technicals, but I I definitely check in on all my SEC filings, depending on what it is that I'm holding. Um, yeah, but probably 90% technicals.
Okay.
My big thing when it comes to fundamentals is I just want to make sure that I'm not buying into something with like a huge active ATM or maybe a ton of warrants overhead at a potential breakout level or something like that. Nate uses the know what you own scenario. I just want to make sure I'm never long one of those stocks where they're going to screw you over ultimately. The company that is.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. And for those who are listening and probably wondering what the hell does that mean, that just go learn how to read SEC filings and look up warrants, look up ATMs, look up just convertible notes. And you got to dive into that and really get an understanding. And that will help you understand what he means by, is this company going to really, just crap out on you, even though it may look like a picture perfect setup. So I appreciate you sharing that, my man. I'm curious, is there something that along the way, when you said you went on your own and made things a little bit more complicated until you came back and make it more simple. When you went on your own, what do you mean by that? When you made things more complicated, got lost back away from simplicity.
Well, so I guess, I mean, these days we have on my scanner itself, I have probably 125 listed stocks popping up and then like 150 OTC stocks. But these days, even with all of those tickers that are on my scan, I'm maybe getting into three of those, like maybe three OTCs, three listeds. And now back in the day, back in the more normal times, the my scans were not that busy. However, there's always stocks that are moving on the day. There's always, something going on, whether it's in large caps, mid caps, small caps, penny stocks, OTC land, whatever it is, there's always something going on. And you have that urge to make money. And especially somebody like me, I basically decided from the beginning that I was going to try to make a living off of trading, which my advice for people for that would be, if you don't have like a substantial amount of startup capital and like back tested data and experience proving that you have an edge, do not do that. I had no edge. I had basically no capital, but I decided to go with it anyway. And it made things very, very difficult. I know I'm kind of getting off topic there, but I think that's very important for people to know. But yeah, so you have all these things going on. You have your emotions coming into play. You want to make money. You need to make money because this is how you're trying to make your living. And you kind of lose discipline. You lose track of what, where you essentially have an edge, and it leads to inconsistency and big losses and this, that, and the other. Everything that the majority of people struggle with trading in, I suppose.
Is it because like you kind of start to see something that works, so you kind of branch out on your own, start doing your own thing, and then you start to see all of these ways to make money that you just start to try everything else? Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess like another thing I would say definitely played a big role in that was being a part of chat rooms and seeing other people, other
Oh
traders
yeah.
who I think have like, they may not be the best in the world, but like they're making some money and they're doing so consistently, and trying to get into the same stocks they're getting in, not necessarily following alerts, but just, trying to take advantage of the same opportunities that they are. But you just don't have the same knowledge or experience that they do, and you keep botching the trade every time. And so I noticed that was definitely a problem for me. Um, and and that's why I decided to come back to, and this is like, if you look at my Twitter, this is like the big thing that that I preach and believe in, is becoming, the goal here should be to become a consistently profitable, self-sufficient trader, not to rely on any other person, any chat room, anything. I I could show up to the market right now every single day, never pull up a chat room, never pull up Twitter, any of that, just me, the screens, the charts. I can make money every single day. And so that's what I feel like everybody's goal should be. You don't want to rely on other people, and they can be helpful, but you don't want to rely on them for your own success in this industry.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I think that's so important to understand, because also, even if you try to like follow or learn from someone else, they might not vibe well with you. Like you said, they have different experiences, different knowledge. And so therefore you're just going to be chasing your tail. And I feel like I've done that a lot too through my own career, where I'll find something that works really well, do well for months, maybe even like 6 months straight. And then all of a sudden I'm like, let me try this. And then I'll just go back down. So it's
Yeah.
funny you say that. And you're right. The simplicity of it all. I love that you went back to that. And you said, I just wanted to go back to like the simplicity of keeping it simple and just trading what I know rather than just trying to branch out constantly. And you also mentioned the fact that you had this idea of trading full time right off the bat and living off your trading, but then you smiled and you're like, but I don't recommend that. Do you want to dive a little deeper into that real quick and just explain what you mean by, what changed your mind from that experience?
Well, it's a fine line. Okay. So, one thing that's really important to understand is, so I was in college, and And I don't want to go into a bunch of details here because we
Sure.
don't have time for all that. But I decided to drop out. Okay, and I knew that trading was a big opportunity. I knew that with enough consistent effort and discipline, that I could make it essentially. And the problem was is that I just didn't. Whenever I did that, my dad basically told me like screw you. I had no financial support. I had at that time maybe $27,000 to my name, not really an edge in the markets, and that just made things very stressful for a long time because I had to pay rent, uh, food, this, that, all the bills, all the typical bills. And I lived way below my means. But when you're trying to trade because you have to you have to live off of that money, it just becomes extremely difficult. But at the same time, I think it was very valuable for me because I gave myself no plan B. Like if trading didn't work out, I was screwed. Like in society's terms, like who knows? Maybe I would have become homeless or something. I don't know. But like I just get you know it it's tough because had I not done it, I don't know I would have been as driven to find the success. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the same time, it's extremely difficult to trade under those conditions. Like it's just so.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to dive into that for just a moment, only because you said something that you said you left without an edge. What do you mean? Like, were you making some, you made some money and just thought I had it, and now with experience today, you're saying you had no edge? Like, what do you mean?
Oh no, 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 no. I knew that I had no edge. I knew I had no edge. But
Is this right
I
when you found Sykes or after, before?
so I found Sykes and man, see, like we gotta rewind because there's very important details that you have to know. So
Sure.
like, I was in college, man. I had basically a full ride scholarship. I had
Oh,
these
shit.
internship lines up, like this big internship, huge oil and gas company, this, that, and the other. All these things, going for me, which people would think, or actually everybody thought I was fucking insane for um, giving it all up. And I came across Sykes. I watched his stuff for a month and I said, you know what? Screw all of this. Not college yet, but screw the internship, screw this company, screw that. And I'm going to spend this summer learning how to trade. And then I go into the next semester. And I thought, I think of myself to be, kind of a bright guy. Um, and I guess that's where the ego was. I was like, I can fucking learn this in one summer. Like, how hard can this really be? Yeah. And we know the answer to that question, but yeah. So I come back to college. I'm obviously didn't find the success over the summer. Things are starting to make a little bit more sense. And I'm going to classes. I'm sitting there watching the market all day, every day, building watch lists, doing this, that, and the other. And I had this scholarship that was coming up that most of my scholarship money went to the like directly into my tuition costs, I guess.
Yeah.
But this scholarship was unique in the sense that it was actually a personal check written to me. And I was holding out for this check because it was going to put me over pattern day trader rule automatically. And so I kind of came across a few different resources and decided that the best thing to do for me would be to drop out of college because I thought that, with so many things going on in my life, it was interfering with my study time and the ability to sit there and watch the markets and learn as much as possible. So slowly but surely, I just started cutting things out of my life: school, people, who people, which that's a big one. That was probably one of the most valuable lessons I learned is that if somebody isn't, extremely supportive of what you're trying to do and they're not going to help you get there, um, it's probably time to let them go, frankly. And that can be very difficult. And believe me, it was difficult for me, but, if you want to reach your goals, achieve your dreams, that stuff, like it has to be done. You have to cut out everything that doesn't matter. And that's what I did. And I know this, I told you, man, that's a long story, but there's so many important details. So we get to the point where I finally drop out of college. I have that scholarship money. I'm over PDT, but my dad says, screw you. So I have this limited amount of money. I have no edge. Like I see things happen, but I can't come into the market every single day and make money. And so next several months, put my back against the wall and kind of figure it out. And still took like 8 months. I don't know. Yeah, I need to take a moment to breathe because that was quite so much stuff. And I appreciate you listening to all that. I'm not even sure if I answered your direct
No,
question,
that
but
was great. No, I appreciate you sharing that, man, because I can tell that it was a very emotional time for you. And also, I can tell that what you're saying is real, like it's coming from experience. And so I think people need to hear this because there's other people who've been in situations, who are in situations like this, or who may approach this in the future. So I'm glad you're sharing this. So now, one thing I'm so curious to ask is that you said it took you another 8 months to kind of see things happen and start to implement, right? I'm very curious, like, how were you able to have your back against the wall, right? And try to make money when you don't have an edge and you have to pay for your stuff, your bills, yada, yada, and then take lessons in with a clear head and then trade the next day without like just that's just how'd you do that? Like what were you how did you do that? That's the only question I have. Like, because that's so hard for me. And I know it's hard for a lot of people. And because I left my job 3 times and I had a great career and I freaking left it cold turkey and just failed miserably. And so, like, now I have income coming in while I'm trading too. So it makes it easier. But, like, I would love to know for selfish reasons and for, I'm sure, other reasons, other people out there want to know, how did you discipline your, not even just discipline, but what were you thinking? How'd you manage that time period? What were you thinking, like, every day, like when you lost, when you won, like how'd you keep yourself in line with the right, like what were you thinking? I have no idea how to ask this question. I just want to know.
yeah. So the only thing that I could really make money on that essentially saved my life, or yeah, saved everything about it, is the breakout pattern. A basic, kind of went over it earlier in this video, is just buying a breakout. And that's, to this day, that is what I stick to, is buying breakouts. That's all I do. And like, people think that's crazy, and they always have, but that's all I do. I just buy breakouts. And so back then, I mean, now I'm seeing, several breakouts a day. Like, this is just incredible times we have right here. Back then, I would only see maybe 2 to 3 clean breakouts a month that I really liked. And those 2 to 3 opportunities per month made it all possible. Um, like that was literally it. Just those, as soon as I would catch those opportunities, the money would come out of my account immediately to make sure that this month's bills were paid, next month's bills were paid, and ideally the month after that. And I was living very, very frugally. Um, so yeah, that's what I would do. But then, the problem is, like, when I would try to learn other things, I would still lose money. But I always did a very good job about managing risk properly and never taking any losses that would put me out of the game. Now, I still had, relative to the account, big losses, and those days would suck, man. They would be terrible. I would be sitting there in my room on my desk, you know, left alone with just my thoughts and, the self-doubt and
Yes.
the desire to potentially quit or question the past version of myself. Like, what were you doing? Why did you make this decision? Look at where I am right now. I could have had this, that, and the other, and I'm failing miserably right now. Just all of those thoughts and emotions. Occasionally, man, I'm not kidding. Like, whenever I really doubted it, yeah, I would pop open the bottle of wine, drink it, and just try to get that buzz and stuff. And um, Yeah, I mean that's the truth right there. It was fucking hard.
Yeah, I
And
believe you. You said, first off, for people who've just started trading, you have no idea the truth of what he just said. Of it appeared maybe 2 to 3 times. Did you say a week or a month?
yeah, a
That
month,
break.
a
Yeah,
month.
and yeah.
That's
So
two, three
like,
times a month.
which is wild. So like now it's happening like almost freaking every day. So what's interesting is that patience. So like in between, and if I heard you correctly, I think you kind of answered my question. You were not trading in between those 2 to 3 trades, right? You were just trading very small or trying to learn something else. Was it paper or was it real money too?
No,
Was it both?
it was always real money, and it was always with the intention to try to make money, not to try to learn. I mean, I was trying to learn, but no. I was trying to make money, and
Yeah.
that was the problem. Is I was trading things I just didn't quite understand, and I would give back money every
Yeah.
single day.
So
It
how'd
was
you
very
hold out? Like how'd you when you finally saw your setup, those 2 to 3, right? At that time, how would you be able to hold with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're trying to make money, but yet you've been taking little losses because along the way to find your, because to wait for this one setup to appear, and then it appears, so you're already down some, and you try to gotta make it back. How did you hold out for a move or not cut out too soon because you're worried it's not going to work that one day? Like that's so hard, dude. That is so hard when the situation you were in. And I know, dude, brother, I can relate to you 100% in terms of I've had moments where I've sat here on the ground just crying because I made the dumbest mistake of my life leaving my job. Like I felt miserable. So like, and I was questioning everything I ever decided to do. So like, I know that feeling. It sucks. But what I,
yeah.
but I came back the next day and traded. But like, I'm just very curious. Like, it's hats off to you, dude. I don't even have my hat on, but like hats off to you, dude. That's amazing. And I know we've already spent like a lot of time already, so we probably have to catch up in the future and talk more about this later. But two questions before we start to wrap this up. The first one is, what is one piece of advice that if you can go back right fucking now and go back to your right when you dropped out of college and sit down in front of yourself and say, one important sentence to him, to the young Mason, what would you tell him and why?
So yeah, it's very simple. I would tell him to only trade and track OTC and listed multi-day breakouts. That is it. And do not even worry about anything else because you're never going to become good at it anyway. So just focus on that stuff. You're going to save yourself a lot of heartache and headaches and stress and self-doubt and all the negative emotions that come with failure. So yes, just sit there. Oh, and also this is very important. This is actually what I did myself. And I know where this conversation is running long, but I sat there and watched the market every day until I didn't take my first day off until last August. From 2017 to August of 2020, I never took a single day off, weekends as well. I always studied. And so I guess, I would tell him, do not take days off. Sit there, watch the market, take notes every single day. And eventually everything you're seeing will become instinctual and you will be able to act on it and and profit from those predictable moves.
Absolutely, man. And I know I said only 2 questions, but is there a book that you've read in between this whole period? And if you're not, that's cool too, man. If a book that kind of stands out that helped you, whether it's trading related or not.
Yeah, so I've read quite a bit of books, and that's what I spent the majority of my time doing. Whenever I dropped out, I would spend my day trading, reading, exercising, eating healthy, occasional socializing with special people, I guess. But anyway, books, plenty of recommendations, but the number one book is Poor Charlie's Almanac by Charlie Munger. It's Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's business partner and self-made billionaire. And I think he's more brilliant than Warren Buffett, and everybody knows who Warren Buffett is. So but that's definitely my suggestion. And I think the whole book should be read. And this is not, something that you read sipping over a glass of wine. Like it requires extreme focus and paying attention to every single word the man says. But take handwritten notes. And but anyway, my favorite part of that entire book is Talk 11, The Psychology of Human Misjudgment.
Okay, cool, man. I never heard of this book, so I'm gonna read it. I appreciate you saying that. It's called Charlie. What's it called again?
Poor Charlie's Almanac, and you want to get the third. I believe it's the third edition. It's the one with the blue cover, and I'm pretty sure that's the third edition. That's the one you want.
Okay, cool.
Because the other ones don't have Talk 11. Talk 11 was actually a talk that never took place, and he went and wrote it all for this book. So,
okay. I'll add that in the description so once I find it, but I appreciate you saying that. And Mason, before you go, my man, where can people find you if they have questions, if they want to learn more about who you are? Is there a particular place you'd like them to go?
Yeah, so just go to my Twitter. It's at mrileytrades. I kind of use that as a public trading journal. I don't really share trades or trade ideas or post tickers or do anything like that. We'll see kind of what I decide to do in the future. But for now, I just share the basic ideas that I have helped me find success. And they're all very simple ideas. And I think that surprises a lot of people. And then also, I don't really post much on it, but my Instagram is also the same handle. And I'm going to start posting things more consistently there. Not trading related. I'm going to do it mainly for inspiration. So I've managed to travel the world while trading. I've been to 35 countries and I've had some incredible experiences. And I don't say that to boast, but like, it's incredible what you can do with, if you find success in trading. And so I think I'm going to start sharing photos and videos there and help inspire people to see what is possible and what the reward can be if you work hard and figure this game out. So.
Awesome, Mason. Well, hey, man, I had a great time talking to you, my man. It was great to learn more about who you are. So I appreciate you being here, my friend.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. Appreciate you having me.